Nigeria's inflation rises to 27 years high, gains 0.72% month-on-month in December 2023 and 7.58% year-on-year in the same period. The stock exchange rises to its highest peak this year, crossing the 80,000 mark, defying inflation and all other market factors. In fact, blue chip stocks are recording gains against all odds. Well, we shall be looking into some of these issues and how they will be shaping the productive sector of the Nigerian economy. Do you know why? Because Nigeria desperately needs to earn, and so that the economy can find her bearing. And also in our lineup is our complementary segment, Simplify These in Markets. My name is Leah Katung-Babatunde, welcoming you to this episode of The Policy. Before we delve into the business of the day, let's catch up with trends.
The Ministry of Finance Incorporated (MOFI) has begun the restructuring of federal government assets with the assumption of ownership, control and management of all outstanding federal government of Nigeria equity in all existing electricity successor companies from the defunct Power Holding Company of Nigeria (PHCN). Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister of the Economy Mr. Leah Katung recently issued an order to the Board of Directors of MOFI to terminate the power of attorney (POA) granted by MOFI to the Bureau of Public Enterprises (BPE) in 2012 and take over the stakes in the 11 power distribution companies (DISCOs). MOFI is a statutory corporation so established by the MOFI Act 1959. The legislative intendment of MOFI Act was and remains that the corporation is constituted as the holder and manager of all assets acquired by way of debt or equity capital from the funds of the federal government of Nigeria. MOFI in a statement noted that these assets include the investments in the defunct National Electric Power Authority, which under the repealed Electric Power Sector Reform Act 2005 (EPSRA) evolved into Power Holding Company of Nigeria PLC and subsequently unbundled into the various electricity successor companies, including the 11 distribution companies (DISCOs). Fitch Ratings has placed Union Bank of Nigeria's PLC (UBN) Issuer Default Ratings (IDRs), Viability Ratings (VR), and National Ratings on Rating Watch Negative (RWN). UBN's government support rating of no support is not affected by this rating action. The rating agency in a report this Monday disclosed that the Rating Watch Negative (RWN) follows the Central Bank of Nigeria's CBN announcement on 10th January that it has dissolved the board and management of 3 Nigerian banks, including UBN, as a result of regulatory non-compliance, corporate governance failure, disregarding the conditions under which banking licenses were granted, and involvement in activities that pose a threat to financial stability, among other infractions. The RWN, it added, reflects the uncertainty surrounding the background to the CBN's intervention, the potential for further regulatory actions, and the negative implications for UBN's standalone credit profile, particularly related to corporate governance risk and liquidity pressures arising from potential funding instability. Fitch expects to resolve the RWN within 6 months once there is more certainty regarding the CBN's intervention and the implications for UBN's standalone credit profile. Nigeria's headline inflation rate increased in December 2023 to 28.92% relative to November 2023 headline inflation rate, which was 28.20%. Data from the National Bureau of Statistics (NBS) shows an increase of 0.72 percentage points when compared to November 2023 headline inflation rate. On a year-on-year basis, the headline inflation rate was 7.58 percentage points higher compared to the rate recorded in December 2022, which was 21.34%. And on a month-on-month basis, The headline inflation rate in December 2023 was 2.29%, which was 0.2% higher than the rate recorded in November 2023, which was 2.09%. A British court has ruled stolen asset worth £6.9 million, or $8.9 million, can be returned to Nigeria. It comes after Jersey's Attorney General served a forfeiture notice to the Royal Court in Jersey in November. The BBC reports that court ruled the money deposited in a Jersey bank account was likely stolen by officials in the Nigerian government in 2014. The return of the assets will now be negotiated with the Federal Republic of Nigeria. The transfer money was disguised as government-sanctioned contracts for armed purchases during incursions by Boko Haram in Nigeria between 2009 and 2015. The government of Jersey said it was probable that most of the funds meant for legitimate arms deals were diverted through foreign bank accounts to and from shell companies. Shell has reached an agreement to sell its Nigerian onshore subsidiary, the Shell Petroleum Development Company of Nigeria Limited (SPDC), to Renaissance, a consortium of 5 companies comprising 4 exploration and production companies based in Nigeria and an international energy group. A statement by Shell disclosed that completion of the transaction is subject to approvals by the federal government of Nigeria and other conditions. The transaction has been designed to preserve the full range of SPDC's operating capabilities following the change of ownership. This includes the technical expertise, management systems, and processes that SPDC implements on behalf of all the companies in the SPDC joint venture. SPDC's staff will continue to be employed by the company as it transitions to new ownership. Following completion, Shell will retain a role in supporting the management of the SPDC JV facilities that supply a major portion of the feed gas to Nigerian Liquefied Natural Gas (NLNG) Limited to help Nigeria achieve maximum value from NLNG.
I'm now being joined by Professor Seth Akutson. He is a professor of economics and the Vice President, Association of Capital Market Academics of Nigeria, ACMAN. You're welcome, Professor, to this conversation.
Oh, thank you very much. My pleasure to be here.
Okay, Prof. For starters, how do we let's get an understanding of these figures. We're seeing inflation approaching 30%. It is, of course, at an all-time high. And then we're seeing the exchange rate also at an all-time high. So how did we get here?
Well, thank you very much. The current inflation rate that was just recently released by the National Bureau of Statistics is put at 28.92%. November, that was for December. The one for November was 28.2%. So you can see that it's an increase of 0.7%. It has actually been going up over the period, the past few months. We can see this increase, we can call it increasing at a decreasing rate. As you can see, majorly is the food inflation index, which is more than 33%. So what really happened is that food production, the food security we've been clamoring for, has been a challenge in this country. And this is as a result of insecurity. And then sometimes flooding. And then sometimes headers activities with farmers or croppers. So these are the areas that have put pressure on the inflationary rate. Second, the challenge with the dollar, we've had a number of pressure on the dollar. And so that impacted on inflation because most of our production is import-based. So the input in production, because it's import-based, so it's not easy to source for that needed forex to import goods. And where they are gotten, you discover that the exchange rate is high. So as a result, the inflation has pressure. And then also, the government ways and means that has been channeled towards consumption rather than production has equally put pressure on the inflation. And then money supply by the central bank has also put pressure. And that is why they try to ration the naira and then restrict naira withdrawal in the banks and all that, but it has not tamed the inflationary trend over the months or years.
Okay, well, farmers and manufacturers are biting their fingers, as you have also noted, due to the losses they're counting. But then we see that the financial institutions are actually smiling to the bank because it will seem we're operating in perhaps divergent, will I use that word, terrains. How do you describe that?
Well, I don't know how the farmers' activities of food production is impacting on banks' bottom line. But what I can tell you that is that the farmers are not finding it easy, particularly in the northern part of the country, where farming is the mainstay. And so if you look at the banks, majorly where the banks are making money today is in terms of electronic transaction. They make a lot of money from electronic transaction. They make a lot of money from charges. They make a lot of money from other means. But the farmers are suffering for it. Well, we can see the anchor borrowers that the federal government tried to execute that virtually was a failure, has put a lot of money in the hands of farmers as loan that were not paid. And so with that, of course, the bank will seem as if they are making money from the farmers because there is a lot of money that was pumped by the central bank into the farming architecture, to which those money were channeled through the commercial bank. So if you look at percentage of what is coming from the commercial bank, you see that there is some increase in terms of farming activities, agricultural activities. So one may be tempted to think that those money that are coming is as a result of profit from the farmers. It is those loan money, charges that are accrued and some other things that are making the banks to smile. And then when you see their books, you will see as if a lot of money is coming. But the economy was suffering for it. It is not as a result of production, it is as a result of free money that is coming from the central bank anchor borrowers and also from loans pumped by Bank of Agriculture, Bank of Industry to support farmers, to which the dividend of those money that were spent on it was not forthcoming. So the bank seems to be making money where the economy is suffering.
So clearly, this is going to seem like there was a total misdirection of funds, if I'm going to put it that way. And when we look at these situations, one will be tempted to ask, how do we retool this, that in this cropping year, for instance, we're having security challenges, as you have pointed out, and we're having other factors that are affecting the farmers, in particular, the productive sector, and also the manufacturers, if I may add. What will be the policy direction now for those who are running businesses and for the government as well?
Well, the major thing to address, the first issue is security, threat to life and livelihood. So that is the first thing to address, and it can be done using technology. And the issue is that we've not seen anywhere the government or the security agencies have applied advanced technology to track these bandits, security threat, and all that. With the name and the SIM card, you can track anybody, even if the person change the SIM card to another phone, it can still be tracked. Or you remove the SIM card and put another SIM. The the IMEI number of the phone you can see track the person. So one is wondering how we cannot address this security when in other clients, this thing, you can never use your phone to commit any crime and you'll not be tracked wherever you are. Even if there's no network, there is a way to track that person and get him straight. This is one. Number two, we don't know why central bank that is not specialized in agriculture will be dispensing funds to farmers directly. We have Bank of Agriculture that can handle that very well, and that has been their function over the years. So when there is dual functions between the central bank and Bank of Agriculture, so you see that it's a misplaced function and priority. So that area need to be looked into. Now, the economy is suffering. Recently, the National Bureau of Statistics came out to say that our inflation rate is 4 point something. I mean, our unemployment rate is 4 point something percent. Thereafter, and also recently, the president said the unemployment rate in Nigeria is unacceptable. One will ask, which one is the president talking about? Is it the 33% or the 4%? And so when you see this kind of a thing, that policy misdirection, they need to address that to balance. So what it means is that even the development partners that are supporting us to address unemployment, I was part of a team with GIZ of a German government to work out unemployment issue in Nigeria. So when you now tell them that your unemployment is 4%, how would they help you? So those kind of things, you can see this kind of policy misalignment. Then how will you help? So those are the things that affect the economy. And then the issue of the Naira. Of course, the floating part of it is that you cannot float anything if you don't have trust. There is this what we call the Archimedes principle in physics, that if a body is wholly or partially immersed in a fluid, it experiences upthrust. So in economics, it's the equilibrium, to find the equilibrium, to guard the equilibrium position. So when there is misdirection, of course, government will intervene so that to ensure that the economy do not suffer. So if we don't do this, we'll continue to face challenges. So we see there are a number of tools required. And also, you have to look at tourism, education tourism, health tourism, and so on and so forth. If we don't tame them, the economy will suffer. So these are just the Midas touch that if the government is serious and sincere, the economy can go back, to where it used to be in the past.
Okay, so while we're looking at our domestic issues, there are also the external factors. There's been the war between Palestine and Israel, for instance, and we're seeing it spread with blockades in major waterways, not allowing vessels to pass, and it will seem like the world is preparing for a war. How is this going to affect Nigerians, and what should be those steps to be taken that we don't get cutaways? For instance, like when COVID happened and we were all of a sudden shut in and we are basically importing a lot of things. How do we weigh this before it happens?
Well, let me say that we are in what we call today globalization. As they used to say, when America catches cold, when America seizes, the rest of the world will catch cold. So, because the whole world is now integrated, whatever is happening, whether in Gaza, in the Middle East, or anywhere in Ukraine or all over, they are affected in a way because of the SCM, supply chain management, because of the global logistics that is involved. So no country now is an island. Even the South Korea, North Korea, that is claiming to be an island, they're still depending on Russia and China and all that. So you can see that you cannot just be an island in any form or whatever. So what is required is that Nigeria, we are not fully integrated in what is happening in the trend of the world. For instance, you will see that when the World Bank, the IMF bring up their projection for economic fundamentals, you see that Nigeria will be having a different platform. For instance, I was at the African Development Bank meeting where a proposal, a projection of some economic fundamentals were made for Africa, you will see that of Nigeria was a far departure from the global projection. We have what is called the Sustainable Development Goal. How comes you have that Sustainable Development Goal that was painstakingly developed by the global community, and yet your fundamentals is different from the projection of that one? The same thing with the IMF and the World Bank. So if we don't follow the trend of what is happening, to sit down and begin to do some homework, okay, how do we term this? What are the risk factors? We did a scenario planning and begin to look at what are the risk factors, how are we going to be affected? So a team of think tank group will come up to begin to look at the threat that is coming here. How do we mitigate it or even eliminate it? So if we don't sit down to look at that, we'll be missing the point. And so this is what the government need to do. We need to work with development partners. We need to work with the international community to see the threat. How are other countries doing it? We have ambassadors all over. The essence of that ambassador is to at least, quote unquote, to steal ideas and send back. We're able to come out of it, with little negative impact. So if we can work out that one, and I think the government will do very well.
Okay, Professor, before I let you go, what would be your advice, particularly for SMEs?
Well, the SME, we normally say most of the time, I've worked with SME a lot, and you discover that most of the challenge that people talk about in SME is to talk about their financing. And now the financial problem is being enhanced. Right now, the Office of the Vice President of Nigeria is raising about $200 million. That's about 215 billion naira to support SME. And also the large-scale enterprises are also being supported together. So these are areas the SME can key in. But finance is not only the problem of SME. Governance architecture is another major problem that they need to address, and also staffing. Sometimes they don't have the right staff and all that. Sometimes the managers, the owner manager is what is on the move. So they need to structure the organization, build it, and make sure that they have something, to do. And so if that is done by SME, also my research shows that a number of them are not fully registered, so they cannot be supported. They need to register their business and get this. Also, there's the issue of branding, appropriate branding and marketing that they need to do. And so those are the areas that the SME should look at. And also we say in SME economics that if you cannot make money without money, you cannot make money with money either. So they should know why they're in business so that they can reach out there. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor, and have a wonderful day.
Thank you very much. My pleasure. Best wishes.
My name is Aldo Mekori.
Keep watching The Policy with Leah.
It aims to provide policymakers an opportunity to explain their policies in a way that members of the public affected by those policies can understand and engage with those policies.
Keep watching The Policy with Leah.
You may have come across that acronym ESG. What do you know about it and how does it affect you? Simplify this is next, and from there we go to the Market Square. For more on rates from markets across the country, do well to log on to our sister website, www.marketnigertv.com. We birth here, but don't forget, subscribe to our YouTube channel. It is at Saban Media Services. Like us and drop your comments, questions, and suggestions because we value them. Also do well to follow our social media pages. Till we come your way again same time next week, my name is Leah Katung-Babatunde, saying God bless Nigeria.